We have quorum. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Board of Trustees on January 20th, 2026 to order at 7:02 p.m. We'll go ahead and do a roll call. Trustee Reidy, we're going to have you wait until someone hits the motion for you to join remotely.
Okay.
Trustee Shaul. Here. Trustee Jardine. Here. Trustee Sobolak.
Here.
I am also here. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll be looking for a motion to allow Trustee Reidy to attend virtually to our meeting today due to health reasons.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Shaul. And then a second.
A second.
Thank you, Trustee Sobolak. Okay, Kathleen, you're all set. Sorry you're not feeling well.
I hope that this is the end of any of these flu things. So
yeah, right. Oh. Okay. Joe is not here with us today. He's down in Champaign, I believe. So we'll go ahead and get started with. I don't see anyone here to address the board and no members of the public currently on the Zoom. So we'll go ahead and move forward to the consent agenda, which are the minutes from January's Committee of the Whole from 2 weeks ago, and then the regular board meeting minutes from November 18th. Those are pages 3 to 5.
Move to approve the minutes. Consent agenda, both of them. I don't think I was here for both meetings. So consent to vote.
I was here for the last. I don't know, but can you still move to approve if you weren't here? I thought that was okay. Yeah.
Second.
Okay, Trustee Shaul moved to approve the meeting minutes from January 6th Committee of the Whole and November 18th, 2025 board meeting, and Jardine seconded. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and move into the library director updates, which are in your packet, starting on page 6 if you're looking in Adobe. Natalie, is there anything in particular you wanted to highlight, or?
It's a longer report, obviously, than normal. You're going to see both November and December's information on there. We have been very busy, and currently we are working very hard on beginning summer reading planning. It is that time of year. So you will see some of that in there. You'll be seeing additional work that we're doing on the winter programming, spring programming. It's been a very busy couple of months.
It was great to see the book repair recouping costs.
They are using that, and it's going phenomenally well. It is holding up really well. The materials that they've repaired have been really, especially with the challenges of replacing material right now.
Yeah, let alone cost. Yeah.
Exactly. It's been a fantastic investment.
That's great. I have a couple questions. The automatic door openers under the ADA work.
Yes.
Where will those additional door openers be? The ones we installed a while ago seem to function okay. So
we're
assuming
going
they were
with the same company. Yes, they are. These were specifically mentioned in that grant. So one will be on the door to go into the museum, which was specifically mentioned in the grant. And we'll have 2 of them to enter into the restrooms on the main floor to make them more accessible. Because part of the grant was making them, all of our restrooms, more accessible.
So restroom doors, not the one from the mezzanine into the library section that won't be on a.
We would love to, because with that little bridge there,
yeah,
it would be really nice to make that. There just wasn't funding in the grant for that yet. We did apply for the ALA grant for accessibility. If we get it, that was something that we put in there. So
You put it for 10 or 20.
we went for either 10 or 20. We
Okay.
left it open because that way you have the highest chance of being awarded something.
Gotcha.
You don't want to, ideally, we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a situation where we've asked for 20 and they only have 10 grand available.
Another one on the new technology, the phone system. So in my time, we switched to a new phone system.
Mhm.
And so now this is the second switch. I'm just curious, what's the cost comparison?
It's pretty much the same. It's not saving us money, but it is giving us a huge amount of functionality.
Yeah.
So we are going to the ability to see your voicemails and your email, to be able to respond from phones outside of the library, all of those things is phenomenal.
Right. Per capita grant. So in looking at the charts, December, we saw a pretty significant uptick in e-borrows. And I know many people on the board are aware of the fact that oftentimes an e-borrow is more expensive than a physical borrow. What's your sense as to what percentage of our annual e-borrows are covered by the per capita grant?
We spend about 30,000-ish of our budgeted funds for e-materials, and we spent the entire per capita grant, which is what, 8,500, give or take. So unfortunately, not as much as we'd like.
Right, maybe when we get to the financials, you can just point out where the ebook budget is. Financials are a little hard to read this.
I know. It's under material. Brian
Yeah.
emailed me about that. I didn't realize that it wasn't in landscape.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I picked up my pack this morning and went through it, so.
At 1 a.m.
I just looked at that this morning and I was like, oh, shoot. No, don't worry. I actually saw it at about 2:50, but that's at that point. I was like, drat. So
Just two more quick things, if you're done. Do we have an assigned board attendee for the Friends meeting on January 24th? Is
We
that
do not.
something we want to do?
actually, we'd love to have this Saturday.
Is it at noon?
It is at
It's on a Saturday?
Saturday. It's always Saturday.
I could do that.
It'll be fun.
Mhm.
You're missing out.
I have a 4-year-old birthday party to go to.
And those are unforgiving, you guys.
Can I be your plus one?
We're thinking about getting ice cream.
4-year-old.
You're just thinking, no, you're not, can't commit.
No, it's like one of those like monster.
That would be fun.
Okay, my last question on the report, which is very helpful, because not meeting in December, I felt like, oh, this got me right up, The sunsetting of Rosetta Stone. So, and then the bringing in transparent languages. Is transparent languages, that is a patron-facing resource?
Yeah.
And what languages does it have besides Spanish and ASL are called out in the comment here?
It says like 110 or something.
Wow.
It has a lot of different languages. It is very comparable to Rosetta Stone. It just doesn't have the name recognition necessarily. It's less than half the cost, which is really nice. Rosetta Stone was not getting the usage that we'd like, so we still want to offer the service, but we don't have the money to pay for that necessarily if it's not being used. So we're switching over to transparent.
Thank you. Thanks for the brief yet detailed answers.
Thank you. The only thing I had a question on, I know you noted that Rachel has taken on bookkeeping.
Yes.
So Laurence did she leave? Cause I had to catch up on the December or November one. I was lightly preoccupied that night. I just was curious. So that was the one personnel change or staffing change between the November board meeting and now.
Yes. So Laurence was a full-time position. Rachel has taken on a portion of her duties, which was the bookkeeping portion. So that gave her additional hours. That still leaves additional hours that we will be hiring a dedicated community engagement person. So we will have somebody who will be working with Jillian and working with the youth and adult services to go out in the community, to be attending events, to be meeting with groups, to be out there more frequently. We want to make sure that we're out where people are. And this was a high priority for me anyway, and this kind of worked out
And the rest of Lawrence's duties were that, were you able to close those up? Okay.
very much so.
No question, but it is always nice to see no staffing changes. I know after there's a lot of changes for a long time, so Lawrence is wonderful. I wish her the best. But it'll be great to have the support. So I'm excited to hear about what the community engagement looks like.
Forward. We will have more information about that probably next week.
I saw the circulation was down 5% year over year. Like, at what point do we start to worry about that trend?
So you've seen the last couple of years doing a massive weeding process, and I think that's responsible for a good amount of that. At this point, we have stopped. We have completed the weeding project. We're at the collection size that is our goal. And I am hoping that we will see at least a leveling off, if not starting to continue to move up. The more money we can put into e-material, probably the better for the future. But with the cost and everything else, it's a balancing act.
Yeah, I guess when we look at the financials, I want to compare the digital circulation to the cost because I'm just curious. But I was also wondering, like, it's hard to tell from the heat maps if there's a correlation between like people walking in the door and circulation. Like, one would assume there is, but I didn't know if you're seeing that trend.
Yes and no. You're seeing a good number of people who will pick up large amounts of material, and then a good number of people who will come in just to use a computer or just to hang out. We see a lot of kids who will come in and just hang out with their friends. They are not necessarily checking out materials, but you're still seeing those other people who are coming out, checking out a large number of materials. So it's not necessarily correlated.
Okay. It could be like a decline in children under 7. The picture books causes the circulation to decline 5%. Like, I know that's where a lot of it.
I should also add that reduction in operating hours has probably affected total circulation,
Sure.
not being open on Sundays, as well as some of the delays with Baker and Taylor. I know that there are people who come in looking for new books, and when they're not available, they'll go somewhere and buy it or go to Lake Forest and borrow it. So I think those are probably contributing factors. Yeah.
We have seen those issues. We have heard complaints about people not being able to get materials. We are hoping things will calm down in the next few months, at least over the next year. The Baker and Taylor loss is still shaking out and still will be for a while.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I should say, when I looked at the numbers earlier today, I was comparing December of 2024 to, or excuse me, 2024 to December of 2025, where there is, I just use that as the comparison as opposed to previous month or whatever.
Yeah, the digital circulation just doesn't seem that high relative to total circulation. Like, that's not even 10%. It's like 3%.
We see a huge number of people requesting additional materials, and I don't know if we had the money to be able to put into that digital circulation, those digital materials, would we see the corresponding huge jump in circulation?
Like, you want to read some Italian novel and it's
Right.
Okay.
Or we only have one copy of whatever is new popular. The new James Patterson book came out. We have one digital copy. If we had 10, would they all circ? Probably.
And just anecdotally, as far as like my book group, I know that when a lot of times will be reading a book, trying to read a book and not able to get, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, my book club, we've started saying you can't pick a book that was published in the last year anymore because a lot of people can't get
Yeah,
a book from their library.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments on the director's report? Okay, we will go on to the financial reports. So we have, the November and December revenue and expenditure report.
Possible. I don't know if it would make it any easier to display.
I don't know if I can do that with the way this is set up. I don't think I can. If you can pull it up on Google on your drive. I can email it to everyone. Giving my computer my screen doesn't keep me working for. Are there any general questions that I can ask?
I couldn't, to be honest with you, I couldn't put them together without the. Ooh. I mean, it's nice that it doesn't look like it's coming from a dot matrix printer.
From the Avis rental county.
Give me nostalgia, you know, we got ribbon, the really satisfying, you can get a whole perforated edge up. Thank you, Natalie. I think.
I can go back to trying to make it look that way. I promise. I can work at it.
Okay, so Natalie just emailed the landscape copies of both the November and December.
Do you want to vote this? It's just a regular.
Yes. You want to just. Just no list, get no services, some checks.
No, there's no list of checks because we had a lot of trouble printing checks. So that's why that's not included in. You want November or December?
I'm looking at December just because it will be incorporated in.
That is good.
Yeah.
So ebooks you were looking for, they are going to be.
Because now I need a budget, just I don't know how to get back And
Drop it, dance.
Sure. Now I can't even get to into the packet either.
The grant would be down here. You're gonna look for.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
per capita
I'm
grant
just
right here.
frustrated now.
Spent any or
We
we have spent it all.
With the,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Like a thriller movie, I got 10 minutes to airdrop this before it expires. Nice,
I don't care. iPhone, all right.
So Brian, to just having Natalie's answered my question about how much total we spend on ebooks each year, and it's about $38,500.
yeah, I was like trying to quickly compare other materials. You could do a comparison. Well, or just to say, yeah, roughly if we have 95,000 units and 3,000 of them are ebooks.
Like in terms of what percentage of the collection compared to percentage of circulation.
Yes, like what percentage of the budget relative to the percentage of the circulation?
One of the things that we go back and forth on quite frequently, trying to figure out where do we want to allocate funds for resources. And the one thing that we keep hearing from people is we need more money in e-materials.
It's hard to argue against because like I definitely use it. I mean, yeah.
It's just the cost of e-materials is so much higher than the cost of physical materials.
And you don't own them, right? Like that's the thing is that it's like a streaming service that you're not amortizing it over.
So if you're going on Hoopla, then we have access to everything Hoopla has, but Bonnie checks something out. Okay, we paid maybe $1.99 for the thing that you checked out. Then Allie checks out something different. Well, that one might cost us $3.99 for the one that you checked out.
Same item?
No.
Okay, different
Different
items.
Right. So every item that they have will be priced differently depending on all sorts of different factors, right? Whereas Libby Overdrive, we purchase those items. What we're really doing is purchasing X amount of time and X amount of circulations. So maybe it's 26 circulations, or we have it for a year. Or 6 months, or whatever it happens to be. Okay, Bonnie and your whole book club checked out one thing, that was 26 circulations, it's gone. Now we have to rebuy it. Whereas the physical material, it circulated 30, 40, 50 times, we only had to buy it once.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like I'm doing back of the envelope, right? So like our budget is $74,000 for everything that isn't ebooks.
Yep.
And that is 95 minus 3, that's 92,000. So like that's less than $1 per item,
Physical item.
physical item that's coming through. Whereas the ebooks, it's 30,000 plus you're using 8,000 for the right. So 38 divided by 3 means it's like $3 per unit. I mean, I have a huge list on Canopy. I have a huge list on Hoopla. Like I understand, but I don't know that anybody understands the financial consequences.
38 divided by 3 is 12. Yeah, 38,000 divided by 3,000 is $12.67 an item.
Okay.
That's cray.
And the problem is, okay, so I bought the new James Patterson book for $20, right? Because I got a little bit of a discount being a library. I bought the new James Patterson book for 100, 120, 130, 150.
And then you only get it for 25.
However many circulations it happens to be for that.
Yeah. I know enough to be dangerous, and maybe Natalie, you can fill in more, or we can say one of us, and I'd even be willing to do it. Take a little homework for our next meeting. I think there's a case going to the Supreme Court about the pricing of ebooks.
I believe it's New Jersey or Connecticut. It's one of the states over there. They are waiting for other states to join on, and Illinois is looking at joining on, but that would be taking them to court over this whole issue. We'll see.
Do the publishers prefer the electronic then?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
It's substantially less work for them. It's much, much easier distribution for them, and it's much more money for them.
I guess we've never really looked at it from that lens, or not since I've been.
A convenience factor that people expect, and we're working on satisfying, but the publishers have decided, originally when ebooks became available to libraries, you could quite literally buy the digital content. That was years ago, obviously, right? And then they realized, well, this doesn't work because it's a one-time sale. It's not even the physical book, you're buying multiples of them. So this doesn't work for them. So they switched to essentially kind of a rental agreement.
Mhm.
And that's where we are now.
And there's nothing that takes like, not that this would be terribly popular, but public domain works
Mhm.
are, they're still the same $3 as opposed to like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's like something you have to read for school that might be out of copyright. We still have to pay the publisher for the.
Depends where you get it. But yes, if it comes through Canopy, Hoopla, Libby, any of those, yes. If you are getting it through the, there's a Project Muse, I think, is a free one. There's a couple of other free sites that you can get materials, e-materials through that are all out of publication. So yes, you can get them for free. But if we get them through those services, yes, you're paying.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But this one
So
is
this is
December.
December, that's where Ally suggested we focus, and I think that's a good idea. Don't touch it.
All right.
There we go.
All right, so here's revenue, what we received so far. We should be at
67.
It's December.
yes. So we have a few places that we are over budget. That's because this is not actually figuring employer FICA tax. We're trying to figure out why, but it's employee and employer. That's why that's over budget. So we're not too concerned about that. Building maintenance is no surprise. Again, building maintenance, no surprise. Professional development just went over slightly. We have a few extra things that came up that were available. Again, building maintenance, no surprise. Those are the highlights that are over budget currently. Periodicals are at essentially, but we only do it once a year. Right, you renew your periodicals about once a year. And library automation should be at about 100% because again, it's a once a year cost. Other than that, we are pretty much exactly where we should be.
When the quill works again for writing checks, I do enjoy reading through those. So when the time is
I'll
right,
email it to everybody. We should have it figured out. Like I said, we were having just, I had to go to Bettina. We had some invoices that didn't want to print out, that weren't allowing me to approve it. We were having all sorts of fun issues last week. We're getting there.
So for tonight, we'll just be looking at approving the revenue and expenditure report.
Yes.
If there are any other questions,
Oh, I did have one. When does the changes to the website maintenance stuff hit?
End of this year, end of this fiscal year, beginning of next fiscal year.
Like March?
Yeah. So we just moved forward with them. We are working on the process of putting everything into the format that they need to put together the new website. Once they have the new website put together, then we go through, the series of revisions, looking everything over, making sure everything works. Trying to make sure that we comply with the WCAG standards as much as we possibly can. And then we will cut over from the previous website to the new website and discontinue services.
Okay.
if there are no other questions about the November and December 2025 revenue expenditure reports, we're looking for a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Sobolak, and a second.
Second,
Thank you, trustee Reidy. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Trustee Shaul,
Aye.
trustee Jardine, trustee Sobolak,
And
trustee Reidy.
aye.
I will also vote aye. Okay, and then we'll move the November and December check disbursement to next month's board. Okay, moving on to new business, we have Martha Trotter from Stickich here to go over our audit report from the last fiscal year. Thank you, Martha, for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay, is there a particular place you'd like to start with trustee questions, or is there any overall statement you would like to give before we get started?
So I have the annual financial report that was issued as part of the audit, as well as the board communication. And unless there's any specific questions, if you've already had a chance to review the financial statements and the board communication, I can certainly address those now, or otherwise I can give a brief highlight of the two reports that were issued and then address questions from that information. So
Is there any preference from the board? Okay, if you'd like to go over the highlights, just like a 5 minutes, and then we can move into questions from the board if that works for you.
certainly.
Great,
And
thank you.
I do have the reports available as well, so I'll not sure if that's easily visible for you or not.
Yes, thank you. And we have electronic copies with us as well.
Okay, perfect. So just briefly, the library is required to go through an annual financial statement audit, and as required by Illinois compiled statutes, the audited financial statements should be available to the public within 6 months of fiscal year end. So we did complete the annual financial statement audit for April 30th, 2025. As part of the annual audit, we have issued this annual financial report. And right at the beginning of the financial report, you'll find our independent auditors report beginning on page 1. And I want to commend the library on receiving a clean, unmodified opinion on the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2025. That is the highest level of assurance that we can provide on the financial statements, and that's based on the audit procedures that were conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. I want to, at this point in time, give our team's appreciation and gratitude to Natalie and to the library's accountants for all of the information that's provided as part of the audit, and in order for us to be able to complete the financial statement audit and provide all the information that's required. We do have a significant amount of requests, and it does require a lot of information to be provided to us. That was all provided in an organized and timely fashion for us to be able to issue the report as required by state statutes. And there are there's one section before you get into the basic financial statements called the management's discussion and analysis. And the pagination of this section is slightly different than the remainder of the report. You'll find it on pages MD&A 1 through MD&A 5. And I would encourage, if you don't review any other portion of the financial statements, this is a great place to find an executive summary of the financials. It's prepared by the library and is summarizes the context of the financial statements, provides a little bit more detail and analysis to the balance, as well as some comparative information that you do not otherwise find in the basic financial statements themselves. The basic financial statements begin on page 4 and 5 with the entity-wide financial statements. The library reports this information on a full accrual basis of accounting. So unlike what you're used to seeing on a monthly basis on a modified accrual, what the full accrual basis financial statements incorporate are all of the library's long-term assets and liabilities. So most notably, you'll see the library reports a net pension asset for IMRF. So its allocation of the net pension information as calculated by the actuaries for the IMRF plan is reported here, as well as capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation, deferred outflows and deferred inflows of resources. Those are some pretty significant items reported here on this full accrual basis of accounting, stemming largely from the calculations that are prepared by the library's actuaries for its IMRF and other post-employment benefit plan. So those are some pretty significant balances reported here that are calculated and reported on a full accrual basis of accounting. Those items that are not anticipated to be collected within or paid out within a short-term or 1-year basis. Those full accrual entity-wide financial statements are simply a requirement of the annual reporting. What you're more interested in and what aligns with what you're used to reviewing on a monthly basis would be the library's balance sheet on page 6 and the library's statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance on page 8. These two statements are reported on a modified accrual basis of accounting for the fiscal year. The information here incorporates liabilities that are anticipated to be paid within paid out within the subsequent year, and receivables or revenues are calculated for items that are expected to be collected within the library's availability period, which is typically within 60 to 90 days of its fiscal year end. So much more short-term focus here. The library's fund balances at April 30th, 2025 ended at $441,644. The majority of the fund balance is unassigned, so there are no formal or statutory restrictions on those fund balances. Those are all of outside of a small portion of 1,077 related to prepaid items. The majority of the library's fund balance is available to fund subsequent year operations. That fund balance, that unassigned fund balance, is roughly 30% of the fiscal year's expenditure. So if a key factor that we look at and oftentimes to see is what portion of your unassigned fund balance, what's available to fund subsequent operations, how does that compare with your annual expenditures? So that's roughly 30% of what was spent during the fiscal year. You will see on statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances, the library's expenditures for the year exceeded the library's revenues, so there was a decrease in the library's fund balance from the prior year. Footnotes to the financial statements begin following that portion on page 10. And then one other section of the financial statements that I would like to bring your attention to that may be of interest to you, as well as in the required supplementary information following the footnotes to the financial statements. There is a budget versus actual schedule. So this schedule presents what was budgeted as compared to the actual audited balances that are reported at the front of the report in the basic financial statements. So as you see, the library had budgeted a net zero budget, whereas in actuality, revenues slightly below what was budgeted for and expenditures slightly over what was budgeted for, resulting in that decrease in fund balance. The board communication report is, I could take questions on the financial statements if you'd like to, if you have any at this time.
I do, Martha. So we're on this general fund page that shows the 127, the change, the decrease of 127 in the general fund balance.
Mhm.
Help me understand, is that affected by the depreciation of the we call it the weeding project, where we removed a lot of items that were in the physical building of the library, but weren't being circulated or were in poor condition or what have you. And that had a financial impact on the library. You guys called it out. Is it represented here? Is it represented here on the general fund sheet, page 29? And if so, where?
So the elimination or the reduction of your books, essentially your catalogs, that those balances are reflected as long-term. So those are included within the capital asset balances. So those are reported only at the entity-wide financial statement level, not here on the fund financial statement level. There may be expenditures related to that project. So it may have influenced, for instance, salaries, or if it increased staffing hours or anything of that nature, it may have impacted those regular operating expenditures. But the actual reduction of the catalog and the disposal or elimination of those, reduction of the capital assets, would have been reflected only on your entity-wide financial statements, which were the pages found on pages 4 and 5. There's also a capital asset footnote disclosure where you see the beginning balances as compared to the ending balances for the fiscal year. That provides a little bit more detail and shows disposals and associated depreciation of disposals.
On page 29, is grant revenue included in donations?
Grant and revenue is included within intergovernmental typically, and then actually donations, I could see how that category is bucketed. I believe that I can tell you just one moment if you. So your grant revenue is within the intergovernmental category.
Okay. So if we're short on grant revenue, then usually we just don't do the projects that we're anticipating, right? So net kind of washes out.
And we updated in the next upcoming budget, you'll see grant revenue and grant expenditures, the lines match up, donations, revenue and expenditures match up. I think it's a lot easier to see that way sometimes, but that will not show up in the audit report because the way it's formed.
I would think of the things we can control, the charges for services, like, the actual versus the original and final budget, there's a $14,000 difference there. That's
That's a lot of things like printing, faxing, things like that.
It may have been some passport revenue
That too.
that didn't come in as a result of staff changes.
Right.
Action services.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay, Martha, did you have any other, did you want to move on to the management letter at all, or?
Sure. Yeah, I can the shorter of the two reports that was issued as part of the audit. Auditor's communication to the Board of Trustees is a required, contains some required communication that as part of our auditing standards, we are required to communicate to those charged with governance. So within this packet of information, just so that you're all aware of what is contained within here, the page 1 is simply a memo of what is contained within this documentation. The required communication begins on page 2. And within this section of the report to the board, we address whether there has been any changes to auditing standards or financial reporting practices reflected within the financial statements. So in the second paragraph, you will see there was a standard implemented. So the Government Accounting Standards Board did require implementation change to how compensated absences are calculated and reflected in the financial statements. Previously and historically, only balances that benefit balances that are paid out at employee termination were reflected in the long-term liabilities on the face of the financial statements in those entity-wide financial statements. Under the new standard, there was a requirement to determine whether any balances which may accrue for employees into future periods where employees can take time, whether or not they are paid out in cash at their separation. So an example of this and what impacted the library were vacation balances that accrue into the future that sick time balances that accrue into the future do not get paid out at separation, but employees may take accrued sick time in future periods. So there was a requirement to calculate more likely than not to be used percentage of those accrued balances and include those in that long-term liability. It did impact the liabilities that are carried on the entity-wide financial statements, those long-term balances. It did not impact the fund level financial statements though, but it was an additional requirement and a change in reporting practice for the fiscal year. Presented here, significant estimates I mentioned, and also on the entity-wide financial statements, those long-term net pension asset of IMRF, the liability for the other post-employment benefit plan, and those related deferred outflows and inflows that are reported on the face of the financial statements. We consider those to be significant estimates because they are calculated by actuaries who are experts in their field. We rely on the actuarial assumptions, however, to report those balances that are reflected on the financial statements. So we just disclosed to the board that we do consider those balances to be significant estimates. We report here on page 3 that we found no difficulties in completing the audit and there were no disagreements with management throughout the process. Had there been any on our end, we would have addressed those and brought those forth to the board prior to the report issued to you. In terms of corrected and uncorrected misstatements of the trial balances that were provided to us for audit, we did have a few adjusting journal entries. However, only one was considered to be material, and that is listed later on in this report. Of those few adjustments that were made, the 2 of those impacted only the entity-wide financial statements. Those related to those the change in the compensated absence, so the implementation of the new GASB pronouncement, as well as an adjustment to the net pension balances that are carried on the face of the financial statements. So it's pretty common to see and impacted largely the entity-wide financial reporting, not the monthly reporting that you're used to seeing, that you're basing your financial decisions off of. So as I noted, those adjusting journal entries are contained here on page 5. And there is what we call uncorrected misstatements. These relate to changes that were not reflected in the audited balances of the financial statements, but they are communicated to the board just due to they are large enough that we feel they should be communicated, but they don't meet the requirement to actually make the adjustment in the financial statements. So this is to inform you of how an adjustment related to that would reflect in the financials. So the past adjustment or uncorrected misstatement that we report here, once again, relates to that net pension asset or liability. There's a change in the calculation of the allocation of the liability or the asset in this year's case from prior year to current year. So that impact of that allocation change of the library's portion of the IMRF pension plan, the impact of it is shown here as a past adjustment and not actually reported in the financials. Aside from that, we have no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies to disclose based on the testing that we completed. And the only other item contained within this report are future GASB pronouncements that may impact the library. Any questions on the board communication packet?
This is not for you, Martha, but did we need to change the employee handbook to reflect the change in the sick time or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
We have caps on them, sick time and vacation time, and sick time carryover has a cap on it. That's fine.
Okay. Is the discount rate published by IMRF or is it published by the actuaries auditing the plan, or?
Yes, so the discount rates for both the IMRF plan as well as for the other post-employment benefit plan, those are reported within the actuarial valuation. So those are calculated as part of the actuaries' assumptions.
Okay.
It comes out in December.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Martha?
Only a few months till we get to start again, right?
Yeah. Bonnie, did you have anything? Okay. Thank you, Martha. We really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, and once again, thank you to Natalie for all of your assistance throughout the audit process. I know it's quite a burden, so we do appreciate your professionalism and all your responsiveness.
You all were fantastic to work with.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Stay warm.
Thank you too.
You.
Okay. Thank you for coordinating with Martha.
How many years have we used them?
I think it's just been with the village. I think Bettina said more than 20 years. It's been an extended period of time, but the village just did an RFP for auditors, and I believe Sikich won it again.
We've had, this is part of the IGA with the village.
Yeah, no, I knew that.
And we've had a lot of discussions around like, what would there be any cost savings if we weren't, all of that. But likely the library size would not trigger Sikich to take us on as an independent client. So we have the benefit of that.
No, I worked with GSNA, GWA, at North Riverside, and it was about $8,500 to have our audit done as an independent entity. I contacted them to see if we could get a quote, as part of the IGA required us to have quotes on auditing, and they're not taking new clients, so they won't even give me a quote. Actually, every audit firm that I contacted told me they're not taking a client.
I wonder who the township uses. Should look.
Can I ask a question with the IMRF sick carryover?
Mm-hmm.
So they lose that time then, or?
You max out, right? So once you hit the maximum amount of sick hours that you can have, you can't accrue any additional. So yes, essentially you lose it. When
But
you
through the library, not through IMRF. Because I know that I can have like over 200 days
Mhm.
through IMRF.
Right, but your institution has a cap on how many they can have. So IMRF, what they ran into was IMRF, when you retire, on your retirement day, as I was the IMRF administrator at North Riverside, when you terminate somebody or put them in for retirement or whatever it happens to be, you need to say, this is their last day. This is how many hours of sick time that they have. because that adds on to however many years,
Yeah.
months, et cetera, that you've put in. Well, some places didn't have caps on this. So it wasn't reflected as a liability on them. It wasn't reflected anywhere. And they didn't have a cap on how many hours, days, et cetera, that you could accrue. So people were retiring 3, 4, 5 years early because they had that much sick time backed up. So now Gatsby has changed it, so you have to report that amount in because it is a liability for us. We are still gonna pay it out. We're just paying it to IMRF instead of paying it to you.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Okay, we'll move on to our actions for tonight, which I think one of them we need Courtney here for, so I don't see the web.
I can print that. I was going to print that out with Sandy.
Oh, okay. Okay, so first up is the policies. These were all discussed at the committee of the whole. So we have the updated reference and interlibrary loan policy. We will be voting to rescind the current bulletin board policy and in place have the community information and solicitation policy, which we discussed, and then a new fundraising policy. So all those were discussed. They are up for a vote to approve tonight. Are there any additional questions since we last met?
Bruce, was there some impetus for the INF 1 and 2?
Minor changes. It's just minor changes in language to reflect what we're actually doing. It wasn't anything major. We're going through and making sure that we actually review everything and found a few things that were inconsistent with it. That's all.
There's a couple of like typos I would recommend changing if it's not too late.
We can do it.
So in INF 1, second paragraph, should say in the second row, second line, time may be deferred, which is DEFER, until staff have time. And then under INF 2, at some point, maybe in the headline, maybe the line right after, just put in parentheses ILL, because that abbreviation is used later on. They cropped up and I'm like, what's an ill request? And I was like, oh yeah, interlibrary loan. That's all.
Those are good
that one.
catches.
We'll have to do these individually. So any other comments on the first two policies, reference services and interlibrary loan? Given that with the corrections made that Trustee Shaul has noted. If not, we'll look for a motion to approve both INF 1 and INF 2 with those edits made.
So move.
Thank you, Trustee Shaul, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Jardine. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, we will be moving to rescind the existing MNG 8 bulletin board policy. It will be replaced by the next policy voting on tonight. That is not in your handout. It would be just rescinding the existing policy.
But MNG8 is the policy to replace it. Is that right?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. But it is something, it is not called the bulletin board policy.
Gotcha.
We're looking
So
for-
step 1
yeah.
is rescind current.
So we'd be looking for a motion to rescind the current MNG 8 bulletin board policy.
Make a motion to rescind current MNG 8 board policy.
Thank you.
Terrible at that.
I will second.
Thank you, Trustee Sobolak. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so MNG 8 has been rescinded. Next up is adopting a new policy in place, which is also titled MNG8, but the Community Information and Solicitation Policy.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Sobolak.
I have some corrections. Question.
Oh. I don't move.
First comment I would make, edit I would recommend is rather than saying library district, just say library service boundaries, small s. So we don't get caught up in that whole library district is it, isn't it discussion. And then the thing I had a question on is candidates with nomination papers may not solicit signatures on library property. So as our board is elected and requires nomination papers, and in general, the library encourages civic engagement, I was surprised to see this statement. So
we discussed it at length at the committee of the whole in terms of like also people like, is it the sidewalk, like where do you draw the boundary for folks to this? But I think this is pretty standard for any municipal entity. Like the same way on a voting day, you can't be on voting property. So yeah, I think it's standard procedure. Generally, it would also be, I mean, from my perspective, it would be like you're on, although we know nominating papers are not an endorsement of somebody, but it does often read that way, that it would be like, oh, you're on, home advantage turf, right? Like if I'm a new trustee or I'm running in a contested election or would be running in a contested election coming on to the library property to say, can you please sign my petition? Like things that you start getting into some.
I've seen a number of problems with patrons being not necessarily harassed, but not feeling comfortable with being asked again and again, can you sign this? Can you sign this? Can you sign this? While they're at the library. Out on the street, you walk by, you see people asking for signatures. Okay. But when you're in the library, they don't expect it and they don't feel necessarily comfortable.
Also, like, we can't have any sort of like political
Indoor.
exactly, whether or not it's related to, your municipal election.
So I'm going to go back to the first paragraph. When I read it, this is about community information exhibits and handouts, so library service boundaries. Then we go to solicitation. That's specifically library property. Never mind. I'm good. I see the distinction between the two now. So you said that at the committee of the whole, did the group discuss in building versus sidewalk? And what was
We settled on library property rather than library. Because library period could be just the portion that's used by the library, even though the library owns the museum side or the front walkway. Like if you have someone standing in front of your front doors and they're not in the building, you might say, I can still do this. So we went with property because technically.
So the sidewalk would be fair game.
Sure.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I'm good.
Would you like to remove Sobolak this one?
Yes. Move again.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Sobolak moves. I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, new MNG8 policy. Next up is a new fundraising policy. This would be MNG12. Was also discussed at length at the committee of the whole meeting earlier this month. Are there any other thoughts, questions, feedback before we vote? If there are none, we'll go for a motion to approve the new fundraising policy.
Kathleen, it's your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just gotten something from my mom's nurse, so I just checked out for a second. Would you please tell me what I should do?
We're just taking a look at the fundraising policy,
Okay.
was
Sorry.
what we discussed earlier, so that's okay. Looking for a motion to approve unless there are other questions or feedback.
Oh, I move to approve.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Jardine. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to the new fundraising policy? Okay. All right. And then last item for action is the web content accessibility certificate. So this is what we've discussed about the 2027 adoption. Knowing that that's coming, this is a resolution to adopt so that it sort of like safeguards the complaint possibility. And Bonnie, you weren't here for the committee of the whole meeting, but essentially like somebody could make a complaint that your website is not meeting the accessibility, even though it is the accessibility guidelines that are due in 2027. Even if you're not due up on it, so you're not out of compliance, that complaint triggers a need to resolve that within, was it 60 days? Yeah.
You have to start, at least you have to answer and start through the process.
So this is somewhat of like a safeguard to be able to say like, hey, we recognize this is happening. We resolve that we will make sure we're compliant by the deadline. So it's just like a bit of.
On April 26, 2027.
And this recently happened with the library, you said locally.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll be looking for a motion to approve this resolution number 26-1, which is authorizing the adoption of the web content accessibility guidelines, and then Sandy will be our signatory.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adopt resolution 26-1.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Excellent. So we have that here. Sandy, I think you and I need to sign it tonight. Maybe grab a black.
Sandy has one.
I just need it. I'm
Sorry, that didn't go very far.
Okay, I got it. And then while I sign this, did you want to talk about any of the comment cards in particular? There's a couple in there. Somebody loves the library with all exclamations.
Some of them were very cute. I don't have any particular comments on them. They were very nice. We're working on trying to increase programming and all sorts of things to hopefully continue to get those wonderful comment cards.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's a comment here about hotspots being available at the Lake Forest Library.
Yeah.
And we here in Lake Bluff at one time had a number of hotspots provided to us through a T-Mobile grant.
During COVID.
I guess the Friends group actually paid for that. That didn't come from T-Mobile. They have now expired. We only have 2 of them left. We're currently just using them for staff who are going out of the library. We are looking at possibly increasing that again. But right now, it goes into the list of items that we want for the Library of Things when we launch that.
Mm-hmm. So we had some, and I'm sorry, we had to return them or?
You pay annually for the contract.
Okay.
So I guess they weren't being used from my understanding, and we didn't continue renewing that.
Okay.
Who's the secretary pro tem? Oh, it is me.
That would be
you.
You're a jack of all trades.
I
You
am.
know that?
I didn't realize that's how the hotspots work, but they were rented essentially. And
So you buy them. Libraries have available TechSoup. You can buy them through TechSoup at an incredibly discounted rate. It is absolutely fantastic. Then you can go through, if you go through Mobile Beacon, you get it for $10 a month. So it's $120 per device. You pay once a year. You don't pay monthly. You just pay once a year for the device. And it's a fantastic program. It's absolutely wonderful. but at the time we had them, they weren't being used. So we're coming back around, we're looking at beginning the library of things, and that has been put on the list of things that we want to do.
Is there like a number were there like a large number of them that were, I'm just wondering, because we're not a community that typically has a lot of access issues around internet. Like, and if we were, looking at community need, like, was it that we had like 20 hotspots and 2 of them were?
I think we had out for some reason, and I just 50-50 on that. That's just the number that's coming to my head. I don't know.
Feels glad they're right for 8. We did a lot during COVID with schools. We would, because there was low internet access in our community. So we did a lot of hotspot, and same thing. You pay $150 a year for that like service, and then when it ended, you might have the hotspot, but you don't have.
Almost 100% return rate to libraries, because if you had it overdue, we just called and turned off your service.
That little thing, yeah.
Yes. So there's pretty much 100% return rate. It was fantastic.
I did want to ask, I forgot to ask this earlier.
If it had been a little earlier, I'd say maybe a plow drove the curb or something, but I'm not sure. Nick was able to bend it back. It is functional. We'll figure it out in the spring when he won't breathe his fingers off at this point. So
was the access door damaged in some way that we couldn't?
the whole frame was kind of bent, so it was extremely difficult to get it open.
Yeah.
Like prying it open, we were concerned. So Nick was able to shift it back. It is usable again. It is functional. It does open and close just fine. We'll see how it does in the spring.
Yeah. It does look like someone hit it with a side view mirror as well. There's a big chip at the top, kind of where the mouth, like somebody drove past and hit it with their side view. So I would say, it was replaced in the last 2 to 3 years. What's there has, it's a little taller, I think, than it used to be. It has more reflective pieces on it. And I think that maybe the garbage and recycling trucks may sometimes be a little unwieldy, and
I mean, I use it, so
I
like,
do
I
too.
appreciate it.
I do too.
And it wasn't me.
I do worry that like at $7,000, it's it seems to have been hit quite a bit.
Well, if we ever expand the building out that way, we'll just have a book drop on the side of the building. It'll be fun.
I can go right underneath.
Exactly. Perfect.
Like a pneumatic too.
Yeah. Well,
Some of those libraries do have that. You put it on, and it just has like belts that take it over.
Wow.
Niles has that, I think. And
Algonquin has a conveyor belt system.
we don't have a need for closed session. I do have 2 quick things. One is you all should have received an individual email from me just asking for feedback by January 30th on the updated director annual review process and materials. This is just for feedback. Once we have the feedback, I'll compile a quick memo to present at the February committee of the whole, just to give an update.
Did you send that to our personal email?
I sent it to trustee emails and CC'd personal emails where I thought perhaps that would be preferred, but let me try that on your side.
I was going to say, I didn't get that, but I'm having trouble with my library email, so I do really use my personal email still, but I didn't see anything come through.
Yeah, it's in your library email, but I will go ahead and forward to your personal emails as well. But if you can just provide me your feedback by the 30th, I'll make the adjustments, prepare a short memo and update. And then the timeline for that is also included in here. So there will be ample time for both trustee and director reflections and input. process. Okay, anyone else? I got a response, I know, from Joe and Brian. I sent it to Courtney's personal email and Bonnie, your personal email too. Thank you. So that is number one. And then the second is we discussed having a retreat similar to what we did in 2024. As we look at the calendar, our previous report was in February, as we were like looking at the calendar and thinking about having all of the materials we want for the retreat. We have the facility plan. We do not have the strategic plan completed yet, right?
We may have that in about the next month. I'm working really hard on trying to get that done by the end of February.
And our target was then to be able to have all of the pieces in one place. I sent Natalie a list of dates. However, would like to propose something for your reflection and thought before we meet at the committee of the whole, is to repurpose the committee of the whole meeting for April, which is Tuesday the 7th, and extend it to 3 hours rather than adding another meeting date on a weekend to your calendars. So just something to think about. I will also let Trustee Kearney and Heck know that this is an option. We could talk about starting at 6 and going until 9 or something, but being able to have something on the calendar that's already there for folks might help with ensuring it happens.
I will go on record saying I'll prefer that.
The 6 o'clock?
Well, just repurposing the Tuesday, April 7th from the committee of the whole to be a retreat rather than adding an extra retreat date on the weekend to the existing calendar.
So how are you proposing we have a committee, the whole meeting, and
it would be the committee of the whole? Yeah, it would be like
the agenda on the
Will we go into closed session for that, or? I guess we don't have to because there's nothing.
We didn't. The it was public meeting for our retreat in the past too.
Okay.
So, no, I mean nobody came, but yeah, they could have. The just saying that there was only one Saturday that wouldn't fall on a week that we already had a library meeting. So if we wanted to do Saturday, April 11th, we would have had the committee of the whole that past Tuesday. The board meeting is the week of April 25th. Anyway. Something to consider. No action needed now, but
I have a question about scheduling. Our March meeting dates, could someone clarify them? Because I know March 17th as an election day, we're not going to have, and it's the third Tuesday of the month. We've moved our board meeting. So the, what are the COW and board meeting dates?
3rd of March would be the committee of the whole. And the 16th, which is Monday, would be the board meeting.
And so for November, it was also moved, I think. The committee of the whole was moved to the Monday.
Yeah.
For 2026. Yeah. November 2nd, 2026. And then the board meeting is the 17th.
Okay. And then one other thing, budget for next year, usually right around this time, we're getting pretty close to what our final budget would be for starting May 1st of 2026. Because the board has usually approves the budget for May, I think in February, March at the latest. Bettina's usually a little anxious to get it.
We sent in everything to Bettina in October, and we haven't heard back anything yet. That's where we are right now.
So given that October, November, December, it's currently January, 3 months have passed, does it make sense to take a look and see if items need to be plus or minus based on run rate?
I can review that.
And then we just go back to Bettina with it. With a nudge.
One of the things I took a peek at was interest because we missed on our interest estimate from previous fiscal year. This fiscal year looks a lot better. So.
Okay. We don't have any other notes comments from trustees. Okay, then I will move to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:21 p.m. Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,